I did order one of these, I just didn't mention it. But anyways, pickup arm, auto switch, motor on, off. Where's that? That's this one. Must be this. No, slide switch. Volume control, on, off, radio, phonograph, switch. Reject, turntable. Doesn't say it. That is a record for different record sizes, I would assume. I think they had different size 78s. But anyways, they won't sell you the full folder. They want to really cheat people and sell you just pieces of it. So here's that resistor. I was studying this a bit. Okay, then that capacitor also on that. Here's the resistor. Where was it? These 39 A and B. So it's 80 ohms probably cold, 40 ohms hot, 115 and 55. I don't know what that means. Hot and cold, or okay. $39. Where is it? Where is it? Yeah, the hell with it. So here's that 0.2. Must be 7. That's what the coil wrapped around it. I'm not seeing the style of numbers, but whatever. Not important. Go to the schematic where it gets interesting. Here's the point. I was looking out, sitting outside. Now this is a switch. Phono radio. So when it's on phono, this cathode is lifted. So it's shutting off this one tube. Not all the tubes, which is smart. Because you don't want all the amperage. You don't want to, well, where's the cathode? You don't want to be interrupting all these, because then you got current of all these and a bigger arc, and your switch will wear quicker. So when you're, there's your bypass capacitor for your grid number 2. Where is grid number 2 hooked up to? Oh, right here. So it's actually shorting out grid number 2 when you don't want her on. Radio, you got your cathode connected, and then when you go to phono, you short out grid number 2 also. That makes sense. You open the cathode and short out grid number 2. That makes sense. There's your tickler winding for your oscillator. This has got an RF amp. One stage of RF, I guess. You'd think it would have shortwave, but it doesn't. How many tubes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now here's where it gets funky. Here's that resistor. 40 ohms for the filaments and 80 ohms for the filter voltage doubler, I think it is. Something funky. Look at that plate does go to ground. Something's funky with this. Now the switch here, I noticed this, a little switch here. So this is that switch that I thought went from, well, there is a Phono. Where the hell's this switch? I don't know. There's not one. I think it's absent unless there's a pull switch on one of the volume, but I don't think so. There's the volume. Here's the on-off switch. Just this switch. So these have been replaced. I'm pretty sure. So here's the other funky thing. Here's that volume control. So look at, here's that 0.2, which is this one. Goes from your minus, or your chassis, whether it's here. I still think it's over this way. Here's your shielded cable. This looks, no it ain't. Here's your shielded cable for your Phono coming into the bottom side. Your Phono comes into the bottom side. Here's that 0.2 going from the shielded grounding stuff to chassis ground. No, that's minus. Chassis ground should show up flat line in 3. Let me see, where's the turntable? Chassis. Don't know. Well, it should be around here. So let's say base, change your base. Shows nothing. So that must solder or have that connection to the base. So the other side is the shielded cable coming in up to your record changer spot. And so it has that 0.2 microfarads there, and there's also a microfarad capacitor. Now here's this one. Okay, this is the motor. The motor. So this capacitor might be that capacitor that's up here. I have to study it more because it's also here, and this is your change your base. It doesn't show anything happening there, like it goes to here for protection wise. Then you'd have a 0.05 for protection. It goes this way, and then you'd have a 0.2 your secondary, but this would be your better protection from getting a higher amperage shock if you were to touch the tone arm and the cold water pipe or concrete or something. But this switch, I don't see this switch. I don't think it's in there. But there are two capacitors up there. They're one on top of the other, right here. Where is it? Right here. I think there's another mica capacitor stashed under there, like this. I thought this was like, it had, I think the way you read from center this way, and this way. And it had a yellow on it, so I figured 400 volts, and I think it had a black red, so I think that was 22 picofarads. I don't know where it's at. The tube is up down below this choke. It's audio output tube. 0.01, 0.03. Here's your mica right here, 250 mini microfarads. $240 mini microfarads. Where's the other one? So see, this didn't go to ground. One on each side of that 2.2 meg. It's pushing negative. Pushing positive. Pushing from the cathode. Where's the other one? These are inside the can. $240 mini microfarads, and where's the other one? I'm pretty sure there's another one underneath that one other capacitor. Mica. There's that. That 0.00. 0.0015. There's your loop. Permanent. Yeah, there's one of those on top of the variable. That's a 10 mini microfarads, and you got your tuner, and one of them's a trimmer, I think. Because you got to have one over here. I think. One's an antenna, which is that. So where's the one that changes the frequency? I don't see it. Oh, over here. That's RF. There it is. So one is a trimmer and one is the variable. So these have variable capacitors. They must be on top of the can. .2, 0.01. Here it is. 100 mini microfarads. So here's your volume, your signal coming in. Your tap is grounded to minus, not to chassis, but to your minus. And your volume turns a half a turn from 12 o'clock to 5 o'clock or whatever I said. I think I said it in reverse. Sometimes I look at stuff upside, automatically look at things upside down view for tube sockets. Sometimes I look at stuff like that. There's that crazy volume. So that's about it. I guess it's a voltage doubler. I never understood why the plate went to ground when that's minus. Has something to do with this. What's happening in between here, it's getting funky there. Looks like it says 15 and 15. 500 ohms, 10 watts, 8,200. A 40 and a 10. The 40 has the orange wire, this has the red wire. It should be vice versa. So this in an earlier protection item. I gotta change my position of my knee. Filter circuit was a filter choke. So this thing, in the earlier ones, what the hell is that choke? This thing. Audio output transformers on the other side. What the hell is this? That's right from the B+. Got an orange and a red wire coming out of the hole here. So where's that? There's your light. I want to look at that. 0.04. Funny that didn't blow out. That's why you never leave these plugged in. I bought in TVs where these things, and stereo. Even I bought a solid state stereo, very low power, and it had this blown out. It was one of those Japanese capacitors that say oil. They're either gray color or black, and they say oil on them and they blow up. Right here, you got to snip that out. I used to snip them out of TVs all the time, snip them out. Especially if they were sprung. So they were, electrolytics were expensive, so they didn't bypass that. So I guess that's it. I want to look at that light bulb. 51, here's the tubes. No, that's about it. I'll look at that light bulb. What's it called? 51 or S1? Probably a globe light. Type C7. This is it. 100 Beginner's Corner. October 27, 2025. Choke. The other one might have RFC choke or a resistor. Signing out.